And ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining us for episode 4 of your new favorite internet show, Visioncon Live. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but you didn't come here to see me today. You came to see my very special guest. He's an actor, professor, and voice actor behind such characters as Obito Uchiha from Naruto Shippuden, Jet the Hawk from Sonic, Hawk's Eye from Sailor Moon, just to name a few. There's absolutely nothing this man can't do. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only, Dr. Michael Yurchak. Michael, how you doing today?
Oh, now I'm doing really well. I like that. I like that intro. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, Michael, I did want to start us out kind of similar to how I start all my celebrity interviews. I want to know the superhero origin story of Michael Yurchak. Start us from how did we get here, where we are now? I want to hear all the way from the beginning. You can take some summary or bridge steps if you'd like, but I'm quite curious.
I was born. Let's see. I grew up outside of Boston, and then when my folks were when I was about 13, my mom and I moved to Chicago. And ever since I was a little kid, I always loved doing character stuff. My sister and I used to do dialects and accents. She's sort of a linguist, my older sister, and speaks something like 8 languages. I don't speak the languages, but I do the accents. So when we were little, she was learning the languages, and I would just learn enough of them so that I could tease her in the accent. So I sort of started doing that kind of stuff, voices and things like that, when I was little. Moved to Chicago, kept on, just class clowning and the rest of it. Started doing a little bit of acting through middle school and high school. Went to college. I went to a place called Colgate University, that's in upstate New York, where I was the first theater major to graduate from that esteemed university.
Wow, congratulations.
That's an interesting little feather. I moved out to LA right after graduating undergrad and started doing on-camera, commercials and TV parts and film stuff wherever I could get it. And then at some point was doing sketch comedy and improv and a bunch of other things, and using my voice a lot, having fun with my voice a lot, and realized, there's a whole industry that I am interested in, curious about. And so I asked my agents at the time, because I was making a living doing on-camera commercials in my 20s, and asked them about it. And they said, take a class. I took a class. The teacher, a woman named Carol Kimball, who's a casting agent to this day here in LA, liked what she heard, believed in me, helped me get signed with an agent. And my very first audition, my very first big audition as a voiceover guy was for the voice of a string of toy stores at the time, which is called KB Toys. And I got it. And voiceover has just been kind of a giant part of my life ever since. And so I started doing lots and lots of commercials, and then edging my way into doing some animation here and there, lots of video games, audiobooks, that kind of stuff. And it just kind of, it continues. I'm a workaday actor, I'm a punch clock kind of guy, lunch pail, blue collar, voiceover guy. I'm not a giant star. I'm not, doing anything that's making anybody rich, but I've been fortunate enough to work real consistently for, 20 years or so, which has been, absolutely my pleasure. So that pretty much brings us up to speed. I'm sure there are other pockets you want to explore, maybe.
Well, I forgot to mention, ladies and gentlemen, how unbelievably humble Michael Yurchak is, because you say you're not, a big star and everything, but I would argue one of your first roles, or at least, in your early career, was a pretty major character in Sailor Moon, one of the most renowned animes in the universe. You played Hawk's Eye, and I gotta tell you, once I saw that, I personally love Hawk's Eye. I love his kind of flamboyant kind of, I know he's technically a bad guy, and I don't usually gel with bad guys, but there's a few that I do, and I'll get to another important one in a minute that you voice. But was Hawk's Eye kind of one of your big breakouts into the anime field, or was that just kind of another notch in your ladder?
You know what's funny is that actually the Hawkeye that I played is in a reboot of Sailor Moon, and so it was more recent. It was still, I guess maybe it's 3 or 4 years ago, but it wasn't. Sailor Moon's been around for a long time, and they've kind of come back around. So so it wasn't one of my first jobs, but it was a cool job, and I loved the job, and it is still the same character, and that show is it wasn't my entry into anime, but it was one of the first shows where I realized how weird anime can be in a great way, right? But
and chat real quick, I'm sorry, I said Sailor Moon. I was just kind of abbreviating. It is technically Sailor Moon Super Moon Stars, or like Sailor Moon S, technically. It's the Viz Media dub.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
I apologize, chat. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, but so anyway, just that show is, the whole storyline of the brothers that come down, these sort of like cross-dressing brothers who come from another planet, and their storyline is that for a whole season, they want to get the rainbow unicorn souls of, that sort of control part of the universe, and that reside inside of beautiful women. And so their task is seduce beautiful women and then hold the magic mirror up to, get them to sort of fall in love. And once they're in love, hold a magic mirror up to them, enter their souls, grab these, rainbow creatures and bring them out so that they can control that part of the universe. That as a concept in and of itself is awesome, right? And then the fact that these guys, they meet at the end of every episode in this bar where they're like lazily drinking, martinis or gin rummies or whatever it is, and then go back and try to seduce the ladies later. They go through headshots looking for different guys. Just that whole thing was so fun and funny and strange and cool. And it was, to me, though it wasn't early in my career, it was one of the first times that I really got a chance to kind of look at a full storyline in that way and just see how amazingly and, incredibly sort of just off the wall the story stuff was.
You see, it baffled my mind too, and this is more a testament to your skill because, obviously a lot of people know you as Obito from Naruto Shippuden, which, don't worry, chat, we'll get to in a minute. But when I was, and that's what I knew you mostly from, but I watched Sailor Moon, the Viz dub is the one that I always watched. I never watched the original dub. So that's why I always knew you as Hawkeye. Well, I knew of you as Hawkeye, but didn't know you were Hawkeye. Let me explain. So as you agreed to do this interview and, the stars aligned, dream come true for me to kind of prepare for this interview, scrolling through IMDb, checking all the stuff that you've done. And I see that you voiced Hawkeye. And, granted, it's been a hot minute since I watched Sailor Moon, but I was like, there's no way. So, I go and watch a couple episodes, that Hawkeye was in to refresh my memory. And I listen real closely. And just Obito and Hawkeye sound nothing alike, and
closer to Tobi.
Below, yeah, a little bit, sure, but even still, just such a distinction. It's just, it's a testament to your own skill. But the next one I wanted to talk about is, Jet the Hawk from Sonic. Obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog series has a super big audience and fan base. So how did you get to be a part of Sonic Hedgehog fan base? And honestly, Jet the Hawk, ever since Sonic Riders, I've adored Jet. So is there any special little story behind that, or was just kind of another job?
Well, thank you. And the studio where lots of the Crunchyroll stuff records and Sonic, the games that are part of it, record is this place called Studiopolis. There are a bunch of different locations, but that they have been incredibly good to me. They are a post-production house and recording studio, and honestly, they have a stable of actors who they work with. They audition new people all the time too, but they're just super cool and generous, and they trust us, and they know that we've logged a lot of time in the booth, and we understand how the way we do stuff when we're dubbing. It's called looping. And so what we do is we watch the Japanese version on a television in front of us, and then we have lines that correspond to the line that we're actually looping, that we're kind of looking at and replacing with the English version of it. And it's called matching, or you're matching what are called the flaps. The flaps are the flaps of the lips moving, and you guys probably all know this already, but that is that's what we're up to. So it's fairly, time intensive, and it just requires you being in there and understanding how dialogue works and animation works and recording works and so on. So the guys at Studiopolis, this guy Jamie Simone, who's the studio owner, and the directors and producers who work there, know that those of us who've been working there for a while doing stuff like Naruto, which is recorded there, are trustworthy. In other words, like, we can handle it. So they just gave me that, I think I probably was in for another session. They might have asked me if I wanted to try it. I tried it. They sent it, and immediately kind of got word back, and they were just like, okay, great. We're going to book you for this version of this game coming up, and you'll be Jet. And so, that's kind of how it went. And I love it. I mean, I've got little kids, and they love Sonic. I used to love Sonic. I played the original Sonic, the Jet character is played by other guys too. He's got a few different voices out there, but it's super fun being a guy that people recognize. And actually, and I don't know if this is our segue, but it was the first thing, Jet was probably one of the first things I did that was really recognizable to my kids. And it was only much later that any of us really understood how popular something like Naruto as a series really was. So I didn't know that was happening, but I'll let you kind of, get to that when you want to.
Oh, you are just one of the greatest guests, because that is a perfect segue into the initial character that I approached you, because I was a huge fan of. I've always, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Naruto Shippuden. It's my favorite anime of all time. So when I found you on Twitter, the voice of Obito, obviously I was stoked, and even more stoked when you got back to me. But I will be honest with you about something, Michael. Now, a quick flashback to young Zach Wilson, who grew up watching the dub of Naruto. I have never watched a single episode of the sub. No, nothing against the sub at all. They do a phenomenal job as well. It's just what I grew up on. And so when the dub had to catch up with the sub, I wouldn't watch any of the subs because I wanted to wait for the dub. So, I was getting constantly surprised by these big plot twists that people who watched the sub, knew for like a year or so. So, and then slight spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched Naruto Shippuden, but this is your warning. When the big Madara, who's actually Madara/Tobi, who's actually Obito, plot twist happened, Michael, I gotta be honest, you broke me. I didn't see it coming. It just shattered my sense of reality. And big applause to you, but also, you kind of traumatized me a little bit. But,
I didn't write
it. But honest to God, Obito is one of my favorite characters in Naruto. And I know I am not the only person who thinks that. And so kind of, how did you nail that job? And kind of, what did Obito/Tobi kind of do for both your career and just kind of any long-term benefits, both personally and professionally, for playing Obito?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, it is easily the longest, most sort of fulfilling job that I've had in my career. I think we recorded that for almost 8 years. It was a long run of stuff. And the funny thing about that was, again, I really didn't have a great grasp of what the show meant to how many people it meant it to, until deep into the run of the thing. So I was cast as Tobi. That was my first job with Studiopolis, the recording studio that I just mentioned. And you know, I was just doing this sort of clownish, funny to me character, you know, slight and timid and sort of silly a lot of the time. As it, you know, it was the clown character that so many anime shows kind of have, and loving it and doing, and you know, thinking it was cool, but I didn't know where you could watch it. I had never really seen an episode. I was aware of the stuff. I knew the story a little bit because of, you know, having read the scripts and been given the direction and so on. But I went to pick my son up from a play date, and in his friend's older brother's room was a shrine to Naruto with action figure of Tobi. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm that guy. And this kid, like this, you know, 12-year-old boy was, you know, was blown away, couldn't believe it. And I was like, hey, neat, you know, I got it. Like that same year, somebody came to our house for Halloween dressed as Tobi. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm that guy. And I'm freaking out. I'm the fanboy. And I was like, this is amazing. So we take pictures together and do the whole thing. So it was right around then. So this goes back to, I don't even know, maybe 2010 or something like that. Or, you know, where I was suddenly aware that this show has a following. And so then I just started, you know, looking out for it a little bit more and realized, you know, what was going on. When the Tobi character, though, kind of went away, Tobi sort of disappears in the string of episodes, and I assumed I was dead, and I assumed that that was it. You know, and in fact, one of the producers said goodbye. I was back in doing a video game of the show, one of the you know, the video game versions of the full show, and doing Tobi. And I was just in the booth, and I read the reveal, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. But they had already thought that they were going to use a different guy because the voice is so different. It's sort of like, you know, Tobi's way up here, and then, you know, and Obito is this kind of, you know, deeper guy. And I was just screwing around in the booth, to be honest with you. They had already told me someone else was going to do it. They hadn't cast it yet, but they were assuming they would. And I just read one of the Obito lines, and I get, you know, through the headphones, someone is like, hey, can you do that again? And I was like, you know, whatever it was. And they said, you know what, we like that. Let's have you do that. Do you want to be this other character, Obito? And I was like, yeah, that's great. You know, so it kind of came to me. And then Obito turns out to be this kind of, you know, how would you describe him? He's like, he starts out as kind of a Darth Vader's kind of, you know, villain, but his storyline, again, when you talk about, I'm really, over the last 10 years or so, I've become such a fan of anime because the depth of the story is so incredible. And so, like, he's not a bad guy. He wants to freeze the world because he wants to put people out of their misery, because he's seen so much pain, and he's witnessed so much betrayal. And so he just doesn't think that humankind can take it anymore. And so that's why he does it. And it's Naruto convinces him in the end, you know, that you can't have the light without the darkness. And that in and of it, like, that as a concept is like, you know, it just is, it's so beautiful. And Obito just kind of gets to be one of the guys that delivers that message, which I just love. You know, it's the coolest thing. So for me, it's been, you know, it was a really rewarding part to play as an actor. And then, yeah, you know, the popularity of it has just been amazing. And people, you know, to this day, that's sort of what people love. The people who like that stuff really like that stuff. And so it's, you know, and I assume your fans are you know, part of that group.
Oh yeah. Like, so many, I mean, a lot of us are anime fans, but, you know, the big three being, you know, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, you know, we typically, you know, shout the loudest. And so my favorite has always been Naruto. So, you know, Obito was always one of my favorites and always will be. And, you know, once Tobi kind of faded out and his voice was replaced by Madara's, you know, Neil Kaplan, you know, I, you know, just kind of thought, you know, that was kind of it, Tobi, like you said. But then to hear that you thought it was the end of it too is actually kind of funny. But then when the big reveal happens and, you know, Madara's character, actual Madara, comes to fruition, and it's actually Obito the entire time. I mean, like I said, I mean, completely wrecked me. I loved it, but man, did it wreck me. But no, I've always had a deep love for villains who end up being good guys in the end. And I mean, I can think of no other, I mean, it rivals Darth Vader in my opinion, Obito. Like, you know, and just like the fact that, you know, once Naruto gets to him and kind of gets into his skull, kind of like the 180 he does to like help save the world. Just, I don't know. I've always had just a
and they have that epic battle. We have that epic battle sort of in the cosmos, kind of looking down and just sort of like, you know, it's too much. He can't take it, you know, and all of that. And it's just like, it's so intense and so fun. So yeah, it's, you know, that the subject of the whole thing and the just like the depth of the story is, I don't know that you ever, it's Shakespearean, you know, it's like, I don't know that you ever get to play that stuff again. So yeah, it's been a great run.
And you know, I hit like three big roles that you've done throughout all these years, but like I've said previously in past episodes, I mean, your guys' IMDb pages are just so long. If I took the time to talk about each and every individual one, I mean, we'd be here all day. But are there any ones that really hit home to you that I didn't mention? Any characters that you have a real fond, you know, soft spot in your heart for? Just out of curiosity.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, recently, and actually just today, I was recording a little bit more for a sequel. There's this movie called The Christmas Chronicles, which is it's a live action movie on Netflix that was kind of co-produced by Disney originally, but I think they're no longer a part of it. But Kurt Russell stars as Santa Claus, and they have created this sort of legion of Christmas elves that are his, you know, sort of flock. And I play one of those, a guy called Bjorn, along with a bunch of other, you know, big, really, really recognizable voiceover talents, two of whom I'm sure you guys have heard of. Fred Tatasciore, who is, you know, in just about everything you've ever seen, and a woman called Debbie Derryberry, and some other really talented folks. But the you know, I was big fans and friends with Fred, and fan of Debbie's before the show, and I got to go in and voice one of those, and that original film, which was two Christmases ago. They created a language specifically for the elves. So the guy that made the languages for Game of Thrones, you know, like Dothraki and all of those things, created this kind of Swedish-based elven tongue for these guys, and we had to learn it, and it was awesome. You know, it was like super fun and challenging and crazy, and it just was really neat. And then this year they're doing a new one, and I got to work with Chris Columbus, who's this big-time movie director, like a celebrity director, is directing the new one, and so I got to do, you know, just spend an hour or two with him doing this stuff. And just earlier today from my booth here, I was doing a little bit more doing some pickups for that as well. So that's a big one and a fun one that's kind of coming up soon. And yeah, you know, I mean, there are others, but I think that honestly, like, as far as animation goes, well, another big one that my kids really love, if you guys know the Skylander series, I play Hugo, who's like the cute little mole man who kind of guides kids through the different stages of the game. And my kids were little and loved that at the time. So it's always fun when it comes back around to your family. I think it's kind of a neat thing.
Absolutely. And real quick, guys, I did want to note on something. You talked about the sequel to Christmas Chronicles. I have links in the chat for you guys all to check out, you know, when you have a moment, and links to both his Twitter and Instagram. So make sure to give him a follow, guys. There's also a link to something that I actually wanted to talk more on, because for those of you who joined us for the beginning of this interview, you heard that I called him Dr. Michael Yurchak, because you have your doctorate in voices. You are a professor, you teach voices. You want to kind of touch more on that, and then we can kind of get into the documentary. Again, link is in the chat, and also if you guys are watching on YouTube, all of these links will be in the video's description as well. But did you want to kind of talk a little bit about your classes and kind of your whole doctoral experience?
Sure. No, thank you. So a little like a minor adjustment on that is that so my doctorate is in technically educational theater and specifically applied theater. I teach voice, which is a slightly different than voice is, and the only reason why I say that is because I do teach voiceover, but the stuff that I am a teacher at a conservatory, or two conservatories, I guess, and the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute is one of them, and another place called the Elizabeth Mestic Acting Studio. And so these two places, I teach voice and acting. And the documentary was part of my dissertation as kind of an arts-based component, and it is the technique that I am certified and specialize in is called Fitzmaurice voice work technique, and it is all about letting go of tension in the body, opening up the breath, and freeing the natural voice in order to communicate fully with the people you want to reach. And lots and lots of people need that, not just actors, but anybody who uses their voice as a way of communicating, which is pretty much everybody. So I work with lots of different kinds of people doing that kind of stuff, primarily actors, but some other folks too. I'm working with a woman in India right now who's a CEO of a company and finds that when she talks to her employees and things, she gets strain in her throat and doesn't feel as empowered as she wishes she did. And so we're just working on ways to get to that. So the doc is just a 20-minute sort of run of it, me working with other people talking about this stuff. It's all starring me, which feels a little bit egocentric, but it is because I had to, I felt I needed as part of my dissertation, a component that visualized it and put it into an artistic medium that was a little more immediate than just the writing, which is, I also have a long, 180-page book that I wrote that is not, it's not as easy to digest, and more than anyone ever really needs to know.
Sure, but I will say, guys, I highly recommend you guys checking out this video. Again, the link in the description. I say that because a little background, a lot, when I do these interviews, I try to find people that, I at least know a little bit about, but, a lot of the times, I don't pick the guests that I interview, the powers that be do. And so I do, a little more research than the ones that I have to do for people I already know. But so I try to do as much research as possible, so, I can conduct these interviews as efficiently and as, accurately as possible. And so I was watching your documentary, and I got to say, I won't lie to you. I did some of the breathing exercises before this very interview, just so I could kind of, calm myself, make sure I was kind of centered, and it really did help. So I highly recommend you guys checking that out. Again, links in the description in the live chat, or if this is on YouTube, right there in the description. But I did want to kind of rewind to something you kind of briefly mentioned earlier. We're kind of going off topic, back to voiceover real quick. Your kids, you have 2 of them, correct?
Yep, 2 boys.
Are there any characters of yours that they are really fond of, the ones that you are kind of most proud of in their eyes?
Well, so now so I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, and my 11-year-old is now a big Naruto fan. So, and more importantly, like for him, actually, his friends are really Naruto fans, and he loves Japan. He loves sort of Japanese culture, and he's learning. He speaks a little bit of Japanese. He loves, just sort of he's been studying geography in school, and they let him kind of pick a topic, and he chose to learn all about Japan and so on. So he's really into it, and he has bumped into the Naruto sort of fan base again and again, and he's just proud of that, which is kind of awesome. And makes me feel great. My older guy, he's the one who had been a big Skylanders fan right when that was kind of at its heyday. The stuff. So I do live action stuff as well. They are. There's a group called Broken Lizard, which made it their biggest claim to fame is a movie called Super Troopers, and they're sort of my older brothers, or they were in college, and I've done everything they've done, I've done, except for Super Troopers. And the reason why I didn't do Super Troopers is because I was so poor at the time that I would have had to fly myself back to New York to shoot it, and I didn't have enough money to get there. They offered me something, and that's the one I was like, I can't do it. And then that's the one that really put them on the map. But everything else they've done, I've been in, including Super Troopers 2, and their latest show, which is called Tacoma FD, which is sort of a spin-off of the group. It's a splintering of the group. The group is still intact, but only two of them specifically started it, Kevin Heffernan and Steve Lemmy. And so Tacoma FD is a show I've got to roll on. And though it is way racy, even for a 14-year-old, we let them watch it because I'm in it, and they know the guys, and so they love that. So yeah, they love that stuff, and it's it's been fun to do stuff. I've done a lot of the other stuff that I've done that they have loved. I'm not sure if you would have ever seen. There was a series of interstitial cartoon characters that used to sort of host the cartoon segment of I think it was Cox Cable in sort of the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area in the early 2000s, and I did all the voices for that stuff.
Wow.
And a show. I used to be the voice of a 3 different characters on PBS. PBS Kids used to run a news segment, and I was the sports guy, the anchor guy, and the weather guy. And so, I got to do those. And the kids, and again, it's like the kids were right in the sweet spot for all of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they kind of climbed this kind of journey with you, and I think that's just really neat and cool. And it kind of perfectly segues my way to my next segment, which is, you are a professor. You teach. Help people. Talk better. Better with their vocations, be it voiceover or as you put it, that CEO that you've been helping. There are a lot of people that we've noticed that are very interested in voice acting, especially now with COVID. We have all this free time. What are some tips that you could recommend people use to get into voice acting, better themselves, or if they're ready to go but just need help kind of kicking off their career? Is there any tips that you could provide everybody watching right now?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a great question. The thing is, when I was getting started, the only way to do it really was through an agent and at a studio and, being in a union and so on. That isn't the case anymore. Technology has got, like, look at us. We're having a video conference. You're in your house, I'm in my house. We're thousands of miles apart. It has gotten to a point where having a studio like this, and this is not, this is broadcast ready, but it is not like tens of thousands of dollars. It doesn't cost that much to get it up and running. You can spend that much, you can spend whatever you want to, but technology and so on has gotten to a place where recording from home makes it so that it is technically viable to do it from wherever. In terms of getting into it as an actor, a voice actor, the thing that is most important is that you're able to translate story to something that you can actually bring to life, and you're doing that through character, and you're doing that by recognizing what is the spark of this character, what's the point of view, how do they see the world they're living in and their place in that world, and based on what about their size and their shape and maybe their gender and their species, or what time period is, their geography, whatever else, how do you shape what might that voice sound like coming out of them? So you kind of pick all this stuff together, and you make those choices, and then the next thing you're kind of working at it. In terms of getting into the business, there are sites, you guys probably have as much information about this as anybody, but there are sites. Behind the Voice Actor is a good one for animation, but there are other ones, these giant juggernauts, they call them pay to play. There's a little bit of a knock on these places because, you are paying to get the opportunity to audition. But when you're getting into this game, you know, what you need is opportunity to flex, opportunity to try it. So once you have kind of a setup at home where you've got a microphone that's decent, plugged into a computer that's decent, maybe run through what's called a preamp that kind of filters the sound and brings the largest waveform into the computer. Just it means a slightly higher end microphone. You're kind of ready to seek out some opportunities to audition, and the way to do that is through these platforms, which are basically like somewhere between dating apps and employment sites, you know, where you kind of fill out a profile and come up with a or a voice description. This is what I offer. So I am, you know, a quirky, everyman, kind, warm-hearted, you know, trustworthy VO talent, with a wide character range and comedy flair, you know, or something like that, right? And so it's this kind of thing. And those are basically keywords, and where you come to, you know, search for somebody. I need someone who can play a little, you know, a little troll, with a hunchback and kind of a funky voice. You know, you look up on the site, you find me. I don't really, I guess I have profiles on these things, but don't go looking at that's not what I'm doing. But you know, you come and or someone comes and they find, say, me or you or whoever else, and based on the keywords that I've provided, then you're kind of, okay, I'm interested. I get an invitation to audition. I submit, you know, and I'm talking about you, all of us, from whatever kind of home studio I've got, which, by the way, can be your closet. You know, I mean, it can be whatever. The most important thing is that it's a quiet room, a room where if you go like that, you don't hear a lot of ringing in your ears. Think of sound waves as ping pong balls. They want to bounce back to you. And if your enemy is a flat wall. So if you can throw a ping pong ball and it hits something and drop, or even hit something and go in another direction, that's better than a flat wall. So having a soft room where you can record, you're kind of doing that. Send your stuff in, and so now I'm doing my little troll voice, right? You know, and I send it in, and I try it, and they maybe give me back some notes, and I maybe do another take at it, and we arrive at it. So now maybe it's, you know, I've changed it based on their direction, and here we go. Fine, this is the voice. Let's do this, you know, and I get the gig, and then you know, the rest is history. And all that happens from there is that they then you know, are in touch with you directly, and then you start kind of going back and forth. They send you scripts and so on. That's the genesis. That's sort of the you know, lifespan of what do. You buy your equipment, you get your studio set up, you sign on to a couple of sites and/or get access to auditions. You create a profile that lets you kind of put yourself out there. When somebody likes what they see, they hit you for an audition. You make some choices, figure it out, send it off to them. If they dig it, they hire you. Then you're in touch together, and you know, you make beautiful music together. That's the short story. There's no quick way to just do it. You know, unfortunately, it isn't like the old studio system or anything where you just get hired on to be a utility voice somewhere. That kind of thing, actually, you know, the situation at Studiopolis that I've mentioned is as close to that, at least for myself, as it gets. You do start bumping into lots of people again and again. You hope that you know, you shined the days you needed to, and they give you more jobs. And you know, and you try to be a nice guy and kind of, you know, cooperate and put out your best work and so on, and get hired again and again. And that happens at every level, you know, whether you're working on big stuff in one of the big market cities, or smaller stuff. You know, somebody's going to be the next guy that creates the show that hits a home run. And you know, behind the voice actors and all those other sites are just as likely a place as any, that, you know, because just as it's easy now to do voiceover, people are making cartoons in their basements, and people are writing great scripts in their basements, and people are collaborating and bringing their own kind of cultural understanding to bear in these awesome projects all over the place, and we get to be a part of it. It's just about seeking it out. So I don't know. That's a long answer. I'm not sure it kind of is totally satisfying, but I gave it a shot.
Oh, no, you did a great job. But there was one word that you said that I actually want us to expand on real quick. You
Yeah.
said opportunities is the name of the game. And I would agree with you there. But it also, opportunities are just what they are, opportunities. There's no guarantee that you'll get the role, capitalize on that opportunity. So I'm curious to see, like, what's your advice when it comes to rejection? Because I know rejection is a large part of life in general, but in showbiz, whether it be voice acting or acting, two parties you're a part of, kind of how do you handle rejection, and any tips for the folks watching?
Oh man, it's such a part of it. It's like, it's unbelievable. We always say that, uh, being in the auditioning process, the grind of the audition process is the job, right? The gigs themselves are like, you do them for free. That the weird thing is, we spend most of our time auditioning. We get rejected on most of the stuff we audition for. And then the gigs we do, we do for nothing, but we're paid for that. We don't get paid for what we do most of, which is audition. We do get paid for, the things we do little of. So you get really used to it. I think that for me, and this is my advice, is leave it on the table, like, have fun with the process itself. If I think about the audition as, this is a cool project in and of itself, this is half hour, 5 minutes, whatever it is, where I get to go through the exercise of looking at a character on a page, taking the information that's given to me from the script or the description or whatever, and bringing this guy to life in one way, shape, or form, having fun with that, making myself laugh, looking for the moments, mining for the information, finding the bits, checking out the rhythm of the scene, thinking about, how the thing's going to play, and then try it, and then think about it, and then try it again, and then think about it again, and then try it again. And then, ultimately, hey, here's a little thing I've done. Take it, universe. And you put it out there. And at that point, you got to just be like, thank you. That was great. And anything else after that is gravy. I would be a damn liar if I said that I'm able to do that every time. There are some times where I feel like, God, I killed that. I loved it. And it was so fun. And I don't get it. I don't get the part. And in fact, that happens a lot. And you learn to make peace with it, because it's a game that's based on other people's taste, which changes daily. The number of variables that go into who gets the role are so gigantic, you can't let it bother you. And I've seen that from both sides, from sort of the production side as well, because I've done a little bit of that stuff too. And there are plenty of times where it's like, God, I love this guy. I love what he's doing with his character. And he sounds so much like the celebrity that is like the person that's driving the show, or the person that we had already made a commitment to. And I just don't think we can have them both on the same spot. So we'll go with this other person, not because this person, we didn't love them. And in that moment, and then you wish that anytime that you came that close, or anytime, you impressed someone or pleased someone, they'd let you know. But the truth is, they don't. So all those conversations kind of go on behind closed doors. You don't know about it, and it can feel an awful lot like, I'm failing, or I'm not reaching anyone. My part of why I went back to school so many times is because I wanted to be sure I understood what I was doing on a technical level and an artistic level in a way that made me secure in my own sense of the art form, I guess, you know. And I don't want to be like too highfalutin about it, but it's like, I know I'm, you know, I'm an insecure guy, you know. I'm an artist. I feel things deeply, and I want very much for you to love me, and all these other things. And you know, I think a lot of people who do what we do are like that. And one of the things that can happen when you shoot a bunch of stuff out into the void and it doesn't come back to you in a positive way, meaning like you put out a lot of auditions and you don't get a lot of jobs, is that, you know, you can start to feel like, well, maybe I'm just no good at it, or maybe I don't know how to do it. And maybe, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. I needed to feel like, and my advice, although I don't know how everyone gets to this point, but you do get to a point of confidence in your own work, where, look, I know I like what I do. I know that I can listen back, and I know that, like, you know what, that's good. I like it. It's funny. It feels like something. And if they needed a bigger guy, a smaller guy, a rounder guy, a thinner guy, you know, you know, whatever, a pitched guy, a different guy, you know, whatever, and I didn't get it, okay. But I know I made myself proud. I know I did the thing that I love to do, and I got to be okay with that. Again, though, this is all like, that's best case scenario. It's tough, man. You know, like you take some hits, that's for sure. But that's also, again, you know, it's like you find other things so that you're able to, when you put it down at the end of the day, you're able to kind of walk away and be like, okay, I put my time in at the mill. I told you at the beginning, I think of myself as a blue collar worker. Like I put my time in, you know, at the grindstone, and then I come back and I go play with my kids and feed the chickens and, you know, do what I do, and then come back and try it again the next day.
Well, it definitely sounds like an industry where you miss every shot you don't take, which is, you know, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, you know, there was a part of me who didn't want to message you just because I was like, there's no way. But then, you know, of course, once you got back to me and you was like, yeah, man, I'd love to. And I was like, yes. But, you know, excuse me.
I've seen your list. I've seen your character, your list of guests, and it's, you know, you get access to lots of guys. It's amazing, and you know, it is entirely my pleasure, and I was so flattered. I told you before the interview, but I'll say it again. You know, I haven't done a lot of cons, and part of that is my own sort of head in the clouds, because I was wrapped up doing my doctoral work and all that kind of thing, and doing a lot of teaching and so on. But part of it was just like sort of a lack of understanding of how these things worked in the first place. And when I had literally just been thinking about how, you know, I wish that I could do more of this kind of stuff. And I saw your email or your message. I think you sent me an instant message on
Twitter.
Was it Twitter? Yeah. And you know, and I was just like, it was so sort of serendipitous and perfect that I couldn't believe it. And then I forgot about it, actually. And then I couldn't find it. And then I was like, oh God, I wanted to do this. How do I reach out? So I went back and dug it out and figured it out. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I was always blessed with, you know, a silver tongue. You know, it's arguably one of my only marketable abilities, but, you know, neither here nor there. Well, guys, right now we're about to go into the plug zone. So now this is your guys' time to ask any questions if you haven't already. Don't worry if you've already asked questions in the live chat. I'm going to scroll through it and ask them, so don't worry. But now is your time. If you haven't already, go ahead and ask any questions, or if you want to just tell Michael anything, now's your chance. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the plug zone. So, Michael Yurchak, is there anything that we haven't already covered, or something that you want to reiterate to plug yourself, promote, be it future projects, other services that you provide, anything like that? Now is your time.
Well, so the first thing I would say is, I would love it if you guys, anybody who wants to, would follow me on Instagram. I have a pathetically small, I'm an old guy, all right? I'm an old guy. I only figured out how to do Instagram like 6 months ago. So I'm there, and I would love to have some followers. I am at Michael Yurchak, all one word, MichaelYurchak, and that's it. And that's how you know I'm an old guy, because there's nothing funny about that or cute about it or whatever. I didn't know. Sure. There you go. So there's that. Christmas Chronicles 2 coming out this Christmas. Check it out. There's a little thing there. I have been doing some work on Tacoma FD. Great show, real good friends of mine, and I really support them. There is this new show. Tell me the name of the new show, the other show that I plugged for you, that I sent you.
So, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, guys, but it is So Molly and the Forest.
Yes, Denali and the Forest Spirit. So it's a new anime show that I think that Crunchyroll is behind, and it's a series, and I am just a guy in kind of season 1, and it's just a couple episodes, but it's a fun show, and that's coming out at some point soon too. And I think those are the big things that all of that stuff is happening, sort of right now. So any and all of it should be coming out pretty soon. Yeah, I think those are the big plugs for now.
And those links are all in the live chat, guys. Those of you watching, and if you're watching right here on YouTube, just right there in the description. But
I guess that's the other thing is the YouTube doc, if you want to check it out. I'd love some of those. Check me out. I don't have a lot of content, but there it is.
Sure, yeah. But that the documentary is also in the chat, guys. But now we are leaving the plug zone.
Plug zone's dead.
And we're going into the viewer comments. So let me scroll up real quick and get to all of them. Okay. All right. So Aaron wrote in and say, Hawkeye is in the house today. Good to see you, Aaron. Glad you could join us. Okay. And then Aaron also wanted to write in and say, because Hawkeye's into older, pretty women, which of these mature beauties from hashtag Once Upon a Time do you think Hawkeye would want to go on a date with? Regina Mills, Blue Fairy, or Ingrid the Snow Queen?
Ingrid the Snow Queen. I'll take her.
Ingrid the Snow Queen. Solid choice. All right. Okay. Scrolling through a couple more. Okay. Phil wrote in and said, what job made you think I've made it? Or did you ever really think that?
Honestly, that's a tough one, because I thought that really early in my career. I told you that I thought that I was the spokes guy. I was the guy, the voice of this gigantic set of national TV and radio commercials. And I was like, I've made it, and I was in my early 20s. And then there was the Screen Actors Guild had a big strike. And I was young and had not saved a penny, and we were on strike for almost 4 months, I think. And I had to go back to waiting tables and so on. And I was disillusioned, I was bummed out. And I have since then kind of always been really cautious about that sense. I feel like I have this symbiotic career where I teach and I act and do stuff. And I keep it that way on purpose. That the early burn made it so I'm always more cautious at this point. There are times where for sure I don't have to teach, but I always do both. So like I'll do sessions, I'll do kind of like teaching sessions, coaching sessions. I coach a lot online. I'll coach online, from my car outside of a studio or in my trailer if I'm working on a lot or whatever. And, just have a half hour or an hour with someone, not because I'm necessarily digging for the money, but because they both fuel me. And I need that sort of sense of like, I'm doing something real, and waiting for other people to call me to do it doesn't always sit well. So I like to go out and grab it a little bit myself.
Sure. I mean, that's a real humble way to answer that question. So I do dig that. Okay. Corby wrote in and said, Michael is a great teacher. All right. Corby Stevens.
Hey, Corby. Yeah, he's a student of mine. Thank you, man.
Hey, glad you could join us, Corby. All right. Okay. We got another person wrote in and asked, if Organization 13 battled the Akatsuki, which member of Xehanort's team would you want Obito to battle with, and why? Are you familiar with Organization 13?
I'm not not well enough to pick one, but give me something.
It's from Kingdom Hearts, and honestly, you could probably Vexen would probably be a good matchup against Obito.
I'll take him.
All righty. Okay. There was one we got right now. Are there any tips of with voice acting and and voiceover work and acting as well? it can be taxing to the body, specifically the throat. Are there any remedies that you take, be it kind of herbal teas, medicines, or any other kind of remedies that you do that consistently work for you that you'd like to tell the audience?
Very quickly, a great trick is, when you're feeling a little bit of tension in the throat, two things. First of all, when you take a breath, try to take a breath and let your entire belly be soft. In other words, soften all your abdominal muscles. That softens the throat muscles, which are really tough to kind of control. Your throat muscles are kind of line the sides of your throat like vines. So if you take a breath that lets go of your belly, these kind of let go too. That's first thing. Second thing I do is I'll take a coffee mug with some herbal tea in it, and I put a kitchen funnel over the tea, over the top of it, and then breathe through the kitchen funnel it gives my throat a steam bath. And if you do that with an herbal tea, it just kind of feels nice. And I got one last thing. If you get a kazoo, I always keep a kazoo on my desk. Going like this massages the throat. It massages the larynx, because you do that, and it causes a gentle buzz inside the throat. If you don't have a kazoo, you can do it with like a bit, like, McDonald's straws are particularly wide, or boba straws are like kind of big. Use one of those, and you just right through. You'll feel the vibration in your throat, and it makes it kind of chases away the demons.
I mean, my vocation is very verbal as well, so I'm definitely stealing that.
Yeah.
Alexa, put a kazoo on my shopping list. Thank you, Alexa. And ladies and gentlemen, that's about all the time we have for today. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 4 of Visioncon Live. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Time for Bob Bergen, voice of Tweety Bird and Porky Pig from Looney Tunes, No Face from Spirited Away, Arsene Lupin III from Lupin III, as well as many others. Michael Yurchak, is there anything else you wanted to say before we signed off this evening?
No, just thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. And what a treat to have Bob on tomorrow. That's amazing.
I'm pretty psyched. I was going to say, I had trouble sleeping last night because I was super excited for you today and Bob tomorrow. So I'm very blessed with the life I lead. And so thank you so much again for joining us, all of you, for today's episode of Visioncon Live. I'm Zach, and much more importantly, this was Dr. Michael Yurchak. Again, all the links are in the live chat if you're watching us live right now, or in the YouTube description if you're on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys take care and have a wonderful rest of your guys' day.